Hey, Steelers Nation. We're back with an exclusive video packed with the latest updates on our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. This way, you'll never miss any exclusive updates or exciting Steelers news. The rumor that is shaking the league right now, and I say this slowly because it sounds almost unreal, is the growing speculation that TJ, what could be on his way out of Pittsburgh and heading straight to Washington to join the Commanders. This is not being treated as a confirmed move, not even close, but inside league circles the whispers are getting louder, more confident, and much harder to ignore. For years, what has been the face of defensive dominance for the Steelers, a symbol of everything that franchise prides itself on, toughness, consistency, and relentless pressure. That is exactly why this speculation feels so explosive. When a player so deeply connected to a franchise suddenly becomes the center of trade talk, it usually means something beneath the surface is shifting. Sources around the league suggest internal frustration, not necessarily with the city or the fans, but with direction, vision, and long-term competitiveness. The idea that Washington could become a landing spot sounds wild, yet also makes a strange kind of sense. The Commanders are hungry for legitimacy, desperate for a defensive superstar who instantly changes how opponents prepare. What represents instant credibility? Even without a deal in place, just the idea of him leaving Pittsburgh has already sparked debates among fans, analysts, and former players. Some believe this is leverage. Others think it is the first real crack in the Steelers' defensive foundation. Either way, this rumor alone is powerful enough to dominate conversations across the entire league. From Pittsburgh's perspective, this speculation hits like a punch to the gut because TJ, what is more than just a player there, he is a cultural cornerstone. The Steelers have built defenses around him, game plans around his presence, and entire seasons around his ability to disrupt offenses. Losing him would not simply create a hole in the depth chart. It would force a complete identity shift. Insiders suggest that contract tensions, workload concerns, and a growing sense of urgency to win now could all be contributing factors. What is in his prime, and elite defenders of his caliber are painfully aware that championship windows do not stay open forever. If there is even a perception that the organization is transitioning rather than contending, frustration can quietly grow. On the outside, everything looks stable, but rumors like this rarely appear out of thin air. The Commanders, meanwhile, are reportedly monitoring the situation closely, seeing an opportunity to make a franchise-defining move. Washington has assets, flexibility, and a front office eager to send a message that mediocrity is no longer acceptable, bringing in what would instantly elevate their defense from promising to terrifying. For Pittsburgh, the question becomes whether holding onto a superstar who might be growing restless is more valuable than resetting with a massive return. That internal debate alone could explain why this rumor refuses to disappear. The Commanders' angle in this speculation is where things get especially intriguing. Washington has been searching for a true defensive identity, someone who commands respect the moment he steps on the field. TJ, what is that without saying a word? His presence alone forces offenses to change protections, alter play calling, and speed up decisions. That kind of impact is almost impossible to quantify, yet every coach in the league understands it. Rumors suggest that Washington believes they are one elite defender away from transforming close losses into statement wins. Adding what would not just improve statistics, it would change mentality. Younger defenders would instantly have a model to follow, and the locker room would gain a leader who leads through action. There's also the business side of this speculation. One in Washington would be a marketing earthquake, jerseys flying off shelves, national attention returning, and primetime matchups suddenly becoming must-watch. For a franchise eager to redefine itself, this move would scream ambition. Of course, the cost would be enormous, both in assets and expectations. But that is exactly why this rumor feels believable. Washington is no longer content with slow rebuilds and cautious optimism. They want a star, and what represents the biggest defensive star potentially available. Even if nothing materializes, the fact that his name is being linked to the Commanders tells you how aggressively they are thinking. For T.J. Watt himself, this speculation opens up a fascinating narrative about legacy and timing. Staying with the Steelers would cement him as a lifelong symbol of the franchise, potentially remembered alongside the greatest defenders in team history. Leaving, however, could redefine him as a transformational force, the kind of player who reshapes multiple organizations. Sources close to the situation suggest Watt is deeply competitive, obsessed with winning, and acutely aware of how quickly opportunities disappear. Washington could offer a fresh challenge, a new environment, and the chance to lead a defense without the weight of decades of tradition on his shoulders. That freedom can be appealing to elite players who have already proven themselves. At the same time, leaving Pittsburgh would not be easy emotionally. The fan base adores him, and the city has embraced him as one of their own. That emotional tug-of-war is often what makes rumors like this so intense. This is not a simple football decision. It is about identity, legacy, and ambition. Watt has nothing left to prove individually, which makes team trajectory the ultimate factor. If he believes Washington offers a clearer path forward, the unthinkable could slowly become possible. That is why this speculation refuses to die, because at its core, it is rooted in very human questions. As this rumor spreads, reactions around the league have been electric. Some analysts dismiss it as noise, arguing that Pittsburgh would never willingly part with a defender of Watt's caliber. Others counter that no player is truly untouchable when circumstances change. Former players have weighed in, noting that modern stars are far more willing to seek new challenges than previous generations. Fans in Pittsburgh are divided between disbelief and anxiety, while Washington supporters are cautiously dreaming without fully allowing themselves to believe. That emotional contrast is what fuels speculation culture. Every vague comment, every front office silence, every strategic non-answer becomes fuel for theories. The lack of official denial only amplifies the noise. Meanwhile, rival teams are watching closely, knowing that if Watt truly becomes available, the entire market would explode. Washington being linked so strongly suggests confidence, or at least preparation. Whether this is smoke or fire remains unknown, but the league rarely ignores rumors of this magnitude without reason. Even if a move never happens, this speculation alone forces both franchises to confront uncomfortable questions about direction and commitment. That pressure can change decision-making behind closed doors. In that sense, the rumor already has power, regardless of the outcome. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the idea of T.J. Watt leaving the Steelers for the Commanders represents more than a potential roster move. It symbolizes a shifting NFL landscape where loyalty, legacy, and ambition collide more openly than ever before. For Pittsburgh, it is a reminder that stability must be matched with vision. For Washington, it is a test of how far they are willing to go to accelerate relevance. And for Watt, it is a crossroads that could define how he is remembered long after his final snap. Rumors like this thrive because they feel plausible, dramatic, and rooted in real competitive tension. No contracts have been torn up, no announcements made, but the conversation itself is telling. It suggests that even the most iconic player-franchise relationships are no longer immune to change. Whether this ends in silence or shock, the league is watching closely. Until clarity arrives, speculation will continue to swirl, voices will grow louder, and every move by both organizations will be analyzed through this lens. That is the power of a rumor like this. It forces everyone to imagine a future that once seemed impossible, and sometimes imagining it is the first step toward making it real. The continuation of this speculation only grows more intense when league observers start connecting subtle dots that normally would go unnoticed. Executives talking off the record have hinted that major defensive contracts across the league are being evaluated differently, with teams weighing age, mileage, and immediate impact more aggressively than before. In that context, the idea of T.J. What being discussed in trade scenarios feels less outrageous and more like a reflection of modern football economics. Pittsburgh has always valued stability, but even the most tradition-rich franchises are forced to adapt when the competitive landscape shifts. Washington, on the other hand, appears eager to capitalize on that shift. The Commanders have quietly positioned themselves as opportunists, a team ready to strike if a rare talent becomes even remotely available. What fits that description perfectly? He is not just productive, he is transformational. Adding him would instantly change how Washington is perceived inside locker rooms across the league. Players talk, and stars notice when an organization shows boldness. This rumor suggests Washington wants to be seen as serious, aggressive, and unafraid of making uncomfortable moves. That perception alone can influence free agents, internal morale, and long-term confidence. Even if the Steelers ultimately shut this down, the fact that such conversations may be happening reveals how fragile even the strongest foundations can become under competitive pressure. Another layer of this rumor revolves around timing, and timing in the NFL is everything. Washington believes its roster is closer to contention than public perception suggests, while Pittsburgh may be wrestling with the reality of transition rather than domination. Those contrasting timelines often create unexpected trade discussions. What, entering the heart of his prime, represents urgency. Elite defenders do not want patience, they want purpose. Sources suggest that Washington's pitch, hypothetical as it may be, centers on immediate defensive leadership and a clear vision of how what would be used as the centerpiece of the unit. That clarity can be incredibly attractive. In Pittsburgh, despite success, there may be questions about how long the current structure can sustain elite performance. That uncertainty can quietly push conversations forward. Fans may see loyalty and history, but players live in windows and opportunities. This rumor thrives because it sits right at the intersection of ambition and doubt. Washington offers the promise of building something new around what, while Pittsburgh represents preserving something established. Neither option is wrong, but one may feel more energizing to a competitor who measures his career by impact rather than comfort. That internal conflict is what gives this speculation its emotional weight. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Ultimately, rumors like this gain momentum because they tap into truths that are rarely spoken out loud. Teams evolve, priorities change, and even icons are evaluated through strategic lenses. The possible connection between T.J. Watt and the Commanders forces fans to confront an uncomfortable idea that no player is completely immune to movement in a league driven by results and vision. For Washington, even being mentioned in the same breath as what elevates their status. It signals intent, ambition, and a willingness to disrupt the norm. For Pittsburgh, it serves as a reminder that managing greatness requires constant reassurance and alignment. The longer this rumor circulates without definitive closure, the more it reshapes narratives around both franchises. Silence becomes speculation, and speculation becomes belief. Whether this ends as nothing more than league chatter or explodes into reality, it has already succeeded in one way. It has changed how people talk about the future. And in the NFL, where perception often drives opportunity, that shift alone can be powerful. Until something definitive emerges, this rumor will continue to live, breathe, and evolve, feeding debates, fueling hopes, and keeping the entire league on edge. What makes this rumor particularly compelling is how it highlights the shifting dynamics of player power in the modern NFL. T.J. Watt is not just a defensive star. He is a symbol of how elite talent can influence the direction of franchises. Sources suggest that his camp has been quietly evaluating opportunities, weighing team trajectories, coaching philosophies, and chances to compete at the highest level. The fact that Washington is being mentioned as a potential destination indicates that teams recognize the magnetic pull of a player who can alter everything around him. Imagine a defense built around Watt's strengths, with younger players thriving under his mentorship, a locker room inspired by his relentless work ethic, and coaches able to design schemes that maximize his disruptive potential. That scenario, though hypothetical, is exactly why this rumor refuses to fade. Fans and analysts are dissecting every practice video, every public statement, and every cryptic social media post for clues. Even casual observers are drawn in, because a move like this challenges conventional thinking about loyalty, legacy, and franchise identity. The conversation itself is changing how people evaluate team-building strategy, and that impact is already measurable. Whether or not what ends up in Washington, the very fact that his name is circulating in this context creates ripples that affect draft strategy, free agent decisions, and league-wide perception. It is a rare instance where speculation alone has tangible influence on the narrative surrounding multiple franchises. The cultural implications of this rumor are equally fascinating. Pittsburgh has long been celebrated for its defensive tradition, a city that venerates hard-nosed, blue-collar football. What embodies that identity? And any suggestion of his departure challenges the core of that cultural narrative. Meanwhile, Washington is attempting to craft a new identity, one that signals ambition, urgency, and a willingness to disrupt established norms. Bringing Watt into that environment would not just change defensive statistics. It would redefine what it means to be a Commander's defender in the eyes of the league and the fan base. Speculation suggests that executives in Washington see him as a transformational figure, someone capable of shifting perception both inside and outside the locker room. That intangible impact is something scouts and analysts can talk about endlessly but cannot fully quantify. It is the kind of influence that alters team culture, elevates expectations, and inspires younger players to exceed their limits. From a media perspective, the rumor alone generates headlines, debates, and viral discussions, giving both franchises unprecedented visibility. Pittsburgh faces the dual challenge of managing fan expectations while maintaining team cohesion, while Washington enjoys the luxury of being seen as bold and proactive. The narrative alone is enough to make this rumor feel consequential, even if no official transaction ever occurs. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.